All right. So group polarization funnels nicely into groupthink, right? So with group polarization, we've got two sides and they're getting more and more extreme in their viewpoints as they're hearing the arguments from the other side. Groupthink is where, we don't want to get all bound up in that. We don't want to have this polarization. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to have discord. And so you have a group that makes faulty decisions. Janus in 1982 coined the term groupthink to describe what happened during the Kennedy cabinet when they were considering backing the Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba. Some dissidents wanted to try and overthrow Fidel Castro. The dissidents were Cuban, and they wanted air support from the U.S. They wanted some weapons. They wanted this kind of support. And so they came to Kennedy and they made their proposal for the things that they needed. Kennedy was a relatively new president at the time. I think this happened in 61. It might have been 62. He was elected and took office in January of 61. So he thought it was a pretty good idea. So he brought it to his cabinet and he said, I think this seems like a pretty good idea, but I want to hear your guys' opinion. Well, you can imagine, you've got a charismatic, young, new president that seems to have, a lot of people behind him and stuff like that. You're a brand new cabinet member. And he comes in and he tells you that he thinks it's a good idea. But what do you think? You can imagine that he's kind of set this situation up for, faulty decision making. Because when the group has a strong leader and the group is under stress, they're more likely to display groupthink. So what happens in groupthink is that even when the members have concerns, even if they have ideas that are disparate from the group leader or have objections to what the group leader is saying, they don't raise them. And so what ends up happening is the group comes to the conclusion that everybody's in consensus because no one has said something against the idea. So, Kennedy comes in, he says, I think we should do this. What do you guys think? Everybody kind of looks around at each other. Nobody really says anything. And then ultimately Kennedy goes, well, without objection, then I think we're going to do it. And they did actually back that invasion, and it went very wrong. For one thing, our air support never showed up because they were taking off from a different time zone than Cuba, and so arrived like an hour after the fact. And the dissidents were all either killed or jailed and held in Cuban prisons, and it all just went completely wrong. And so after the fact, and after Kennedy was assassinated, then his cabinet members started saying things like, I never thought the Bay of Pigs invasion was a very good idea. I didn't know what to say, but I didn't think we should do it. And when they were asked, why didn't you say anything? Most of them said, because it seemed like everybody else was in agreement. And so that's classic groupthink, where, the group thinks everybody else is in agreement and they don't want to rock the boat, and they conform with what they perceive to be the group consensus, what appears to them. And what they're doing is they're all using each other as information and using everybody else's inaction as information and coming to the wrong conclusion that everybody's in agreement. All right, so this is an example of groupthink in action, and this is from a feature film called Outbreak. So go ahead and watch this little clip, and we'll come back and talk about and break down some of the things that happen in the movie that illustrate the concepts we're talking about. I'll see you on the other side.